I have a confession to make. I don't have the clicker. Oh, the confession is I love sailing. I love being on the water. I love feeling the wind. I love the sense of freedom while doing that. I always done that for fun or sometimes for vacation. I've been doing that since I was a teenager. Now, this summer, a friend of mine called me and he said, Valerio, I would like for you to participate in the World Sailing Championship in Spain because we don't have anybody from the United States, so you should come. Now, to give you an idea of how the World Sailing Championship of Sailing works, I want to share with you a video. And I need technical help to move forward. There we go. Thank you. So, as you can see, these guys are pretty intense. They are the national champions from all the different countries they participate. They go fast. They know how to do it. And can I go back to the slides? Trying to get to the next one after the video. There we go. Thank you. Just for comparison, that's me with my kids. That's how I do sailing. Or that's it's not working. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you. Thank you. All right. Or for example, that's me enjoying sailing on the water with my wife or getting a suntan. So very different from what the people were doing in the sailing championship. Anyway, after some thinking, and then convincing my wife, we say yes. So we go to Spain, and we get on a boat. Now, this boat is tiny, super fast. We are on the first day of the race. That's the starting line. 85 boats, all competing for space, trying to get ready. Finally, they give us the signal. We start running. We trim the sails. We balance the boat. We check direction to avoid hitting anybody else. We are in the race. After some time, I have a few thoughts. Wow, this is working. We are doing it. We are doing it. I feel like I'm driving a BMW. This is fast. This is fun. But when I look around, it looks like I'm competing in a Formula One race. We are way behind everybody else. So we should go faster. We should go faster. Now I look around, the wind is strong, way stronger than we expected. We are on the Atlantic Ocean, after all. The waves are big, much bigger than we expected. They are almost as big as our boat. So it's hard to keep the balance. And it's difficult. It's very difficult. A few minutes go by, and then we capsize. We capsize. And what comes to mind is the water is cold. It's freezing cold. It's like waking up in the morning and putting cold water in the face, but we have it all over the body. And we are tired, and we don't know how to go back home. So we ride the boat, and we decide, time to go back ashore. We take a hot shower, and then my wife and I, we drink an Aperol Spritz. And that's the end of race 1, where we are the last boat in the championship. The next day, we show up and we say, we learn a lot. We are ready. We can do it. We can do it. So we go back on the water with our tiny boat. We get ready, 5 minutes to the starting signal. We trim the sails. We balance the boat. We check direction. We don't want to hit anybody. We feel the wind. Man, this is strong. We look at the waves. A lot of waves here. And then I see my wife. She goes like this. That's our agreed upon abort signal. So we say, okay, we go back shore, and we drink an Aperol Spritz. And that's the end of the second day, where we are still the last boat in the championship. And you probably get how this is going. So on day 3, we again show up. We go on the boat, trim the sails, balance the boat, check direction, and then the abort signal goes up. So again, Aperol Spritz. And then on day 4, that's the final day of the race. We say, okay, we got this. This is the final day of the race. We got it. We have learned how to do it. I think we can do it. So we go out on the boat. We are really, really committed. We trim the sails, balance the boat, check the direction, and they change the race course. They move the race course. They say, you know what, this is the final. Let's make it more difficult. Let's go out on the ocean where there is more wind and more waves. And guess what happens? The abort signal goes up. And more Aperol Spritz for us. So then the race is over. The championship is over, and we are the last boat in the championship. So I feel sad. I feel depressed. Because I knew I was not going there to win. I knew that. But man, being the last one in the race, I didn't expect that. But as I think about it, something is missing. I realize something is missing. And then after some time, I realize it. I've been focusing on the output. I've been focusing on my performance. I've been focusing on doing, trying to do it. I've been focusing on the result, which was the wrong metric to look at. And instead, what I remember was Simon Sinek. Start with why. I have forgotten my why. I have forgotten why did I even come here to do this competition. And when I started thinking about that, it was because I wanted to live an adventure with my wife. It was because we wanted to have some fun together. Because we wanted maybe to see Spain. And we actually had achieved all of these outcomes. We had achieved our why, including drinking a lot of Aperol Spritz. So why are we having this conversation? Because we do this all the time. As product owners, we focus so much on producing, getting output out the door, building features, without really stopping and thinking, why? What is our why? What are the outcomes we would like to deliver to our customers? Why are we even doing this? So now I would like for you all, to think about your favorite product. And this could be something you use every day, or maybe something that you don't use very often, but when you use it, oh, this is good. So, what is your favorite product, and why do you like that? So let me share mine, for example. My favorite product is this shoe. So let me give you a background story. Right after the pandemic finished and the lockdown was done, I started running again. But every time I went out running, I got injured. To the knee, to the calf, so much that I had to stay still for like 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time. And then I would try running again, and I would get injured again, and so on. So at some point I say, you know what, probably I should not run anymore, right? Just give it up, right? Go play ping pong, go do something else. Until I found this shoe. Now, with this shoe, I've been running for 6 months, no injury. So what is special about this shoe? A couple of things. One is the padding. The padding is even from the back to the front. So the foot, instead of staying like this when you have a lot of padding at the back, instead of staying like this, the foot stays like this. So you hit the ground flat. The second thing is that the shape of the shoe is broader at the front. And what that means is that when the foot hits the ground, the foot can open up and stretch out instead of being constrained like a normal shoe. So that's my favorite product. What's yours? I would like for you to turn right or left, find a partner, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, share what is your favorite product and why do you like it. Please go. You get to the... All right, thank you. Thank you for the conversation. So let me continue with an additional point. I have another question for you. As you think about your favorite product, how does it make you feel? Who does it help you become? So, for example, what I shared earlier were basically features of the issue. But what the issue helped me feel, who helped me become, is I feel free again. And I feel powerful. I can finally run. I'm not afraid of doing that. And I feel free. I can go anywhere, anytime I want, without fear of being injured. So that's how this product makes me feel. That's who I become. I become free again. So I would like for you to think about your favorite product and how does it make you feel? Who do you become because of your product? Please have a conversation. All right. Thank you all. I'm priming your thinking to look at somewhere else. Because if you think about it, when we buy a product, we don't buy it only for the things that it does for us, but we buy it also for the emotions that that product can create for us. So that's what I would like to talk next. Years ago, Bain and Company, a consulting company based in the United States, did research. And they asked customers of very successful products what values they were getting from these products. And they aggregated all these results into the pyramid of value, or the elements of value pyramid. Now, I see that the text is really small given the distance, so I'm gonna share a little bit with you. And they in particular divided these elements of value in 4 categories. At the bottom are values that are functional, things that the product can do for you. For example, saves time, simplifies, makes money, reduces risk, and so on. Then, going up, there is the emotional category, emotions that customers can get, and then life-changing and social impact. And what they found was that successful products delivered across multiple of these elements of value. In fact, at least 4 or 5 across all the elements of value. And what they also found was that the most successful products delivered elements of value that were higher up in the pyramid. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. One is this. At the bottom here is quality. Quality is a function of value. The product needs to have quality, right? Interesting enough, every single respondent in that survey said that they were getting quality as a value from their favorite product. What does it mean is that that's table stake. You cannot have a successful product without quality. It needs to be there. And if you're working with an agile team, you know that already. Because in agile, in Scrum and so on, when we work and we plan a work, we can adjust the timeline, we can adjust the scope, we can adjust the velocity of the team, but we don't compromise on quality. Because when we do that, we incur technical debt, and then there are a lot of consequences because of that. So quality is a table stake, and in fact, Scrum teams use a definition of done to have a list of criteria to maintain a level of quality that they expect. Now, higher up in this pyramid, up here in the life-changing category is motivation. Fitbit, the fitness tracker, the wearable fitness tracker. I guess everybody knows Fitbit. They deliver across multiple values, but the most important one is motivation. Motivation is up there in the life-changing category. The Fitbit motivates people to be more active in their life. And that's why the Fitbit has been extremely successful. So I'm using this to help you think that if you want to build a successful product, you need to understand what elements of value you are delivering to your customers. What do they care about? What outcomes you want to generate for them? And the more, of course, the more of this you can include, the better. Now, you can Google this to find the picture so you can save it for yourself, right? I want to share. Now, I teach product management classes. So in every class, I ask my students to think about their favorite product, like you did, and then to use the pyramid to jot down, to put a dot on every single element of value they get from their favorite product. I'm going to share a few examples here. Let's see if we can make it work. That's an example of what my students reported. I have a few more to share. So you can see that, of course, every time is different, right? Everybody gets different values. I put all of them for the last 6 months together. And what I'm taking away from this picture is that, of course, everybody gets functional values. They buy a product because the product can do something for them. But as you can see, they also get a lot of emotional values from their favorite product, life-changing, and sometimes even social impact. So my invitation to you, as you're planning your next product, as you're starting your next project, think about what values are we going to deliver to our customers, what do they care about, what outcomes do we want to deliver. And this pyramid can help. Now let me share an example, real-life example. This is from a customer of mine I've been working with, of how we use this. So this company spent, they are building a big, gigantic software application for their internal employees. And they spent the last year coming up with a list of all the requirements, all the different things that this new application should do. They created this list in an Excel file. And when they finally look at that Excel file, it contained 3,000 capabilities, all different things they wanted to do in this product. This is just a screenshot, just to give you an idea how that looked like. Now, I want to invite you, think about it. You start a new product, and you have an Excel file with 3,000 different capabilities. How do you maintain your sanity? How do you even look at that and decide, where should I start? What is my next priority? What is important here, more important, less important? It's just a big Excel file. In fact, they were stuck. For them, it was, we need to do the whole thing here. But that's not agile. So we helped them to think in a different way. And what we did, we basically took 3 steps. Step number 1 was, let's create alignment on the product vision. What is the vision for this product? Why should we do it? So going back to the why, what kind of benefits should we deliver to our customers or to your basic internal users? Why should we build it? Why does it matter? Step number 2 was to understand the outcomes. What are the outcomes that we want to deliver to our customers? What values do we want to deliver? So we created a list of these outcomes. And now, using those outcomes, we created a roadmap, looking at, for each outcome, what is it that we need to do in order to deliver that outcome. So we pulled from the list of 3,000 capabilities, we pulled 4, 5, maybe 6 capabilities under each outcome, and those were the things we had to build in order to deliver each outcome. And now we had a roadmap that was objective-driven, outcome by outcome, with a list of capabilities under each one. That was our roadmap for the increments. We call them MVPs, MVP 1, 2, and so on. Now the team was able to actually go in action, execute the work, because they had the set of priorities, and they could validate at each step whether or not the thing was working, was delivering the outcomes or not. So when you start a new product, and you're working with a Scrum team, there are basically 3 main elements you want to consider. The first one is building the thing right. We spoke about quality earlier. And who's responsible for that? It's the developing team, the developers on the Scrum team. They're responsible for quality, they're responsible for technical expertise. Now, that's not enough. We also need to have a process. In particular, if you're using Scrum, your process is Scrum. And you need to have, for example, a Scrum Master. That's the person who is responsible for making sure that you adopt Scrum effectively. Sometimes you have a project manager, especially when you're building something much bigger, multiple teams working together. And then there is a third element. And that is, we need to build the right thing. It's not enough to just build, right? We need to build the right thing. So how do we know if what we are building is the right thing? We need somebody who understands the outcomes and who validates these outcomes. And that's the product owner on the Scrum team. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the role of the product owner. And I have a question for you all. And the question is, who likes tiramisu? Whoa, 2 hands also, wow. So tiramisu is my favorite dessert. And for those of you who may not know this, tiramisu comes from the northeast region of Italy, in particular from Venice. So a couple of years ago, I was there for work. I was speaking at the Agile conference, and the night before, I was out in a restaurant having dinner, and they had tiramisu. So I said, okay, great place. If not here, where should I get a tiramisu? So I got a tiramisu. And when I tasted it, it was not that great. It's not good. And that made me think, what makes a good tiramisu? So when you really think about that, there are 3 main ingredients in a tiramisu. The first one is coffee, in particular espresso. The second one is the cookies, the savoiardi, the ladyfingers cookies. And then the third ingredient is the cheese, the mascarpone cheese. These 3 ingredients need to be in balance. Because when they are off balance, you get a very strange tiramisu. For example, it could be soggy when you had too much coffee. Or it could be dry if you had too many cookies. Or it could be cheesy if you had too much cheese. So to make a great tiramisu, these 3 main ingredients need to be in balance. I believe the same thing is true for a product owner. There are 3 main ingredients, 3 main areas of responsibility for a product owner, and these 3 need to be in balance. The first one is understand the customer. Basically understand who the customer is, what they need, and also the market in which they operate. The second one is drive product development. At the end, we need to build a product. We want to work with our Scrum team, with our developers. We need to drive product development. So we have a backlog, a roadmap, priorities, all these kind of things, right? And then the third area of responsibility is measuring the outcomes. Because if you think about it, if we don't measure the outcomes, we just build, incurring a lot of risk, actually, because we are investing a lot of time, money, materials in building something that maybe the customers don't like or they don't need. So we want to stop and measure the outcomes. And then based on the feedback that we get, we can decide what to do next. So these 3 responsibilities really happen iteratively. That's why they are in a circle here. So now, question for you. For the product that you build, for the work that you do, for the projects you work on which of these 3 areas do you tend to focus? Every one of us has like a particular preference, right? So I want to ask you, where do you tend to focus? And also, what happens to your product, to the quality of your product, and so on? What happens if you ignore any one of these areas? So please, turn to your partner, have a conversation, see if you can answer these 2 questions. All right, thank you. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to share with you an example, another real-life story. So even if we said this happening in a circle, in reality, it often feels this way. So we spend some time understanding the customers, and we think we got it. Then we go into drive product development, and we build the product. And then when finally it's done, we measure the outcomes. And now everything can happen here, right? We got it right, great. We completely misunderstood. Oh, we need to go back, all these kind of things. It gets even worse, because sometimes we use Scrum or other agile practices in development, but that's not really agile. Why? Because everything is already set up for us. It's a big upfront planning. There is no validation as we build the thing. We just slice the work in short sprints. Sprint after sprint, we build the thing, but we measure the outcomes all at the end. So let me share an example. We are going to call it the team red. This is a team in a big bank in the United States. I used to work for a major bank in the United States, so this is a real-life story. And at some point, this team was tasked with building a new innovative CRM application to manage the relationship with the customers. They collected all the requirements, talking with customers, understand the customers. So they did all the work. They spent 6 months doing that, trying to understand the customers, collecting all the requirements, and so on. And during that process, they created a long product requirement document. Basically, a big plan, jotting down everything that they wanted to do with this CRM application. They got the VP approval, and once they were done, they went to the Scrum team. And they said, how long will it take? And the team said, it's going to take about a year to build that whole thing. Okay, great. And by the way, we use Scrum, so we're going to do this in sprints. And they started the work. Now, a year goes by, and after a year, only 50% of that product was actually built. But because they had this big upfront plan, they could not deliver any of that to their customers. In fact, it took them another year to actually complete the whole thing and finally release that and get some validation whether or not this was the right thing to build. So basically, they were doing this thing linearly, like I shared before, like this. So my invitation for you is, when you start a new product, when you start a new project, look at how you're doing that, how you're approaching that. And instead of that, do this. So focus on the 3 areas of responsibility and do that iteratively. Understand the customers, drive product development, measure the outcomes. Often as possible. For example, at least every sprint. In fact, if you're doing Scrum right, you can use the sprint review as an opportunity to bring in your customers and then do validation with them. Are we delivering the right outcomes for you or not? And then the next sprint you can adjust. Another way that you can validate your outcomes is to use rapid prototyping. So I'm going to share another story, again, real-life story, to give you some ideas. Now, this story is also about shoes. We're talking about shoes a lot today. So if you look at a modern running shoe, the anatomy looks more or less like this. You have the shoe, but in particular, you have extra padding in the heel, in the back. So much so that typically the typical running shoe has 10 to 12 millimeters more padding in the back than in the front. So your foot really is like this. You walk like this. Now, I'm going to share the story of, his name is Golden Harper. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Altra. Altra comes from Latin, it means other, something different. And they make shoes, but they make different type of shoes. That shoe I was sharing actually before. Now, Golden, his father, used to be a football player. And then at some point he got injured in the knee. His doctor told him he would not be able to run again, ever again in life. In fact, he probably would have problems walking. Now, Golden he could not accept this outcome, so he started looking, started doing some research. And he discovered that in the United States, looking back from the 70s and 80s up to the 2000s, the rate of injuries, like knee injuries and other type of injuries, has not gone down. In fact, in some cases, gone up. How is it possible? I mean, all the new technology, all the extra padding, all the different technology in the shoes that we have created in the 20 years or so since then, how is that possible? And then he started noticing that Americans, when they run extending the full leg, and they land on the heel. Now, when you land on the heel with the full straight leg, you put a lot of strain on the knee. And that's why they build shoes with more padding in the heel, so you don't have that problem. But the problem is that the more padding you have in the heel, the more the foot stays this way, and the more you tend to land this way anyway. So he started looking somewhere else. In particular, he looked to Kenya. Kenyan runners are famous because some of them run barefoot, no shoes at all, right? And when you run barefoot, your foot lands flat on the ground, and also your knee is bent. You cannot run this way, right? You need to run this way to absorb the impact. So now with this additional, actually, is another thing. The rate of injuries in Kenya has gone down. From the 70s, 80s to today, the rate of injury has gone down. So very different from the United States. So with all this knowledge, he had an hypothesis. And the hypothesis was this: if we build a shoe that doesn't have the extra padding in the back, basically the padding is the same level across the entire shoe. If we build this shoe, we can reduce the rate of injuries for runners. That was a kind of a bold hypothesis. And how do you test this hypothesis without investing millions of dollars in building a shoe company and then figure out if this is even true or not? Rapid prototyping. That's what he did. So he bought a pair of shoe, regular pair of shoe with the extra padding in the heel. He went home and he put the shoe in the oven. He melted the foam. Then he removed the extra padding and made the padding flat in the shoe. And once he was done, he started running with it. And he noticed how he would bend the knee, change his posture, and actually reduce his own fatigue. Over the years, he built 1,000 more shoes using his oven for his customers and friends. And all of them reported that by using this type of shoes, they were having much less injuries and much less fatigue. With that knowledge, he basically validated the hypothesis, and he was able to deliver that outcome to his customers. With that knowledge, he then went to raise capital. He created a company, and recently he sold the company to the same company that now owns Timberland. So that's the full story. But you can see how he started from having an hypothesis and then doing some rapid prototyping and rapid validation of the outcomes before committing himself to building the full product. So we are at the end of today's conversation, and I hope that you are taking away many different ideas and inspirations from how to think, how to work, how to consider your next project. If you're just taking one thing out of this conversation, I would like for you to not focus on the output, but rather focus on the outcomes. As a society, we are kind of trained to think that the more work we do, the better. And we end up doing more, thinking at some point somebody will recognize us. Oh man, I've done so much, I will get the recognition I deserve. But that's all output. At risk, we risk is all output. I would really like for you to think about outcomes and focus on the outcomes what is the goal that I would like to achieve? What is the goal I would like to deliver to my customers? And then you work back and think, what is the work I need to do to deliver that outcome? With that, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I look forward to see you next the rest of the day. Thank you.